the agenda and here we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular business meeting of Reading City Council here on Monday, May 10th. We're going to open this evening's meeting with the invocation by Pastor Jerry Jones of St. John's Missionary Baptist Church. After the invocation, we will take some time to rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. So welcome, Pastor Jones.
He is not with us.
Oh, he's not with us. Oh, okay. Well, we'll turn it over to Johanny, will you give us a brief invocation, please? Something brief. Do you mind? I'm just randomly selecting here.
Caught me off guard there, Jeff. Wow.
Sorry.
Can we have a moment of silence instead?
Absolutely. Okay, thank you, everyone. Sometimes peace is the best statement there is, right? We're going to ask everyone, if they don't mind, to rise and we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I'll wait a few seconds till we get started. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, everyone. We're going to ask Linda now to do complete a roll call, please.
Ms. Cepeda Freitas?
Here.
Ms. Goodman-Hintershitz? Here. Mr. Marmaru?
Here.
Ms. Reed?
Here.
Ms. Sahelnick?
Here.
Ms. Ventura?
Here.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Here.
7 present, none absent.
Okay, we have no proclamations or presentations this evening. We do have one live speaker and 2 written submissions for public comment. Since we do have a live speaker, I'm going to ask the Councilwoman Donna Reed, please read our public comment guidelines.
Okay, just give me a minute here. Okay, here we go. Due to COVID-19, also known as coronavirus, the public speaking requirements have been modified. Public comment can be offered by telephone or virtual meeting application, by registering with the city clerk by noon on the day of the business meeting, or in writing through an email to council@readingpa.gov, or a letter mailed to the council office clearly marked, quote, public comment, unquote. Written public comment must be submitted by 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting to allow time to distribute the comments submitted. The written comment received will be read into the record. All remarks, must be directed to council's body and not to any individual council member or public or elected or appointed official in attendance. Any comment that is personally offensive or impertinent will not be read into the record. Comments on agenda matters are limited to 5 minutes in length, and comments on non-agenda matters are limited to 3 minutes.
All right, and we have one live speaker this evening. His gentleman's name again, Linda, and the topic?
Mr. Ranieri, he wanted to speak about dirt bikes, but he did not connect with us.
Oh, okay. So if he happens to join us, we will allow him to speak. In the meantime, Linda, if you don't mind, to read in the 2 written submissions for public comment.
Okay, our first submission is from Christopher Ellis. He says, the idea of a task force to help those unhoused was to put to the wayside, and the public was told that they can comment at meetings, so I will. I write in opposition to Bill 37, 2021, in addition to it likely being unconstitutional to limit freedom of expression, it is also duplicative in nature. Asking someone for money is not a crime. Aggressively asking someone is a completely subjective term, and we know that some law enforcement officers have not historically administered subjective laws in an equal and fair manner. Someone who is harassing another can be arrested for crimes already on the books. Why create this additional hurdle and create even more subjectivity, add another law on the books? I've read the ordinance multiple times and cannot figure out why it needs to exist. My concern here is that this is not about actually helping people and what it could become. Administrations change. How a department reads and implements this now is not how one may read and implement it in the future. I did not come from a place where people who were unhoused were asked what was needed to help them and were part of crafting the ordinance. Who crafts and helps an ordinance usually reveals the intent of it. I ask that you withdraw this vote, ask that you withdraw this, vote no on this, and seek to instead hire a tenant advocate and create stronger laws around wayward landlords. Create public restrooms with showers and laundry capability. Look at ways to provide housing for those without it. Help those who are addicted to hard drug. Don't provide them with a 2-hour course we know won't do anything, and find them with money they don't have. We all have people in our family who have struggled in life or continue to. The solution is not to create a law in search of a problem. It is to meet them where they are. My council person asked me to come up with solutions. I have offered some that won't fix everything, and I would take a lot of work, but would do a heck of a lot more for the people of this city than this ordinance would. I understand it is difficult to govern a smallish city with limits on a budget and Act 47, but that doesn't mean we have to go another way. Thank you for your time. Then our second submission is from Patrol Officer James Thomas. He tells us the proposed amendment to the loitering ordinance entitled Aggressive Loitering and Panhandling Ordinance is a new tool the department needs to address the issues created by those who take an aggressive stance when conducting these activities. The current loitering ordinance in Chapter 353 is unconstitutional and cannot be used. However, the proposed amendment provides us with the means to stamp out aggressive behavior when it is observed by the police or individuals under attack. The penalty for violating the proposed ordinance is more than fair and provides the charged individual with the opportunity to opt for social services rather than getting fined. This will provide us with the bite we need to deter such activities. While working on Penn Street for the past 3 years, I have responded to a number of complaints for loitering and panhandling. Most of these complaints occur outside businesses in the 500 block, 600 block, and 800 blocks of Penn Street. But since there was no enforceable ordinance on the books, there was very little I could do. The complaints varied from people asking for money or cigarettes by means of verbal communication or signage. In most instances, those approached were simply annoyed. However, in some cases, the panhandlers were very aggressive and would walk up to people or approach them from behind, causing concern. One particular panhandler would aggressively approach 3 to 5 people, asking them for $1 as they walked by or exited the Family Dollar store on Penn Street. When I observed this, my only choice was to attempt to move the panhandler away. Over the past 2 months, 2 additional officers were assigned to the downtown area, but this increased police presence reduced the number of complaints received from business owners and citizens. However, this will change in June when additional officers will return to their regular patrol assignments. I encourage City Council to pass this ordinance and give us the tools that we need to help clean up Penn Street and make it a safe place for people to shop. That's all.
All right, thank you for reading those onto the record for us, Linda. We're going to move on now to the approval of our agenda and minutes. The first, that would include our agenda, obviously, for this evening, and there's an ordinance we want to remove. That is ordinance number 34, the second one on the list. With the approval of our agenda, we will be removing that ordinance. And also we will be approving the, excuse me one second, the minutes from our April 26th regular meeting and the summations of discussion from the April 26th and May 3rd committee, the whole meetings, as well as the nominations and appointment committee meetings. We will also, as part of the approval of our agenda, be approving our consent agenda legislation. There are just two items. The first is an award of contract for citywide traffic signal operation and maintenance program to Traffic Planning and Design, Inc. in Pottstown, PA, at a total cost of $415,640 over a 3-year period. The project is being administered by the city with a PennDOT ARLE grant under the terms of the agreement and PennDOT Publication 740 as a local grant project with an 80/20 reimbursement / cost sharing component. The next item under our consent agenda is authorizing the addition of a new 2021 bank account for Fund 47 at Wells Fargo to receive funding from the American Recovery Act, expected, I guess, sometime this week, so at least the first half of that. So those two items are part of the consent agenda. Is there any objection to the approval of our agenda minutes and consent agenda items? If there's not, they will stand as approved, and we will move on this evening. We do not have any reports. We do not have, oh, I'm sorry, I already passed that. We do not have any accommodations this evening, but we're going to move on to the administrative reports. And we'll start off with the administration. And I know we have Honorable Abe Amoros and Mr. Dembowski on the meeting call with us this evening, and we'll turn it over to them.
Thank you, Council President. Greatly appreciate the opportunity to address Council. And prior to the administrative report, I'd like to read a statement by the mayor in reference to the pulling of ordinance number 34. And he basically wanted to share with you the following statement. I wish to thank Council and members of my administration for a healthy and robust discussion regarding college credits for police officers. Upon constructive feedback and reflection, I believe it's in the best interest of the city and our residents to continue the consideration of college credits for promotional purposes. We've had a very busy 2 weeks since we last met. And the mayor recently surveyed city employees to identify those who were interested in becoming vaccinated. And those employees who expressed that interest were given the opportunity to attend the Penn State Health St. Joseph's walk-up vaccine clinics downtown that began on May 5th. Time was set aside by city employees before the public event to ensure that they could participate in a timely manner. May 12th and May 19th are the last 2 dates currently scheduled for the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine at the walk-up clinic at Penn State Health at the downtown location. Anyone that is still in need of a vaccine can attend either of those dates between 12 and 6. No appointment is necessary. The Community Development Department began its biweekly meetings with Desmond Traffic Management, a comprehensive parking study consultant. Desmond is gathering information from RPA regarding traffic circulation and targeted areas at different time intervals to establish street parking. Community Development has also begun to assemble staff needed for a lead hazard abatement program. 2 employees are being identified to participate in this effort, and a budget will also be created for the remainder of 2021. Once this takes place, the Department of Health will receive a submission for approval, and the grant funding application submittal will follow. The Community Development Department, in collaboration with Penn State Health, is also working on a grant application for active transportation. The grant is to encourage walkability along activity-friendly routes that connect everyday destinations. Under finance, the department continues to review processes and procedures within divisions to identify opportunities for process improvements. There are a variety of projects currently underway to improve areas within accounting. The Citizen Service Center continues to move staff to Treasury as needed to process housing bill payments, which we've made some progress on. Reminder to homeowners, the discount period ends in May. The Citizen Service Center is also assisting Public Works with a mass mailing to properties within the former DID area in Spanish and English. And the intent of the mailing is to communicate the progress that has occurred since the city has taken over the duties within the downtown area. The Finance Department Grants Division also submitted an HHS Advancing Health Literacy to enhance community responses to COVID-19 grant application on April the 20th. The city served as the applicant while partnering with the Reading Area Community College, Penn State College of Medicine, and Latino Connection on the proposed submitted. The intent is to improve health literacy by creating an effective community-centric system. And it's going to have a focus on peer review program that can be integrated into those health systems. Under Human Relations Commission, we've had 909 total rent and utility assistance applications that were received, and 81 applicants resided outside of the city but within the county. 206 applicants were not actively facing eviction. 613 were facing eviction, and we've helped many of those. Under the Reading Public Library, the summer RPL program planning is well underway. The program will run from June 14th to August 14th, and we will have more details to come. The Reading Public Library is also participating in the Fine Free pilot project, which begins June 1st and goes through December 31st. 7 other Berks County Public Libraries are also joining RPL in this project. And Operation Ceasefire under the police department still continues, and we've had several things to report on. The March 20th detail resulted in the following arrests and violations: 27 traffic stops, 19 citations issued, 3 new misdemeanors, 2 new felony cases, 3 firearms were seized, 28 home visits of individuals on probation or parole, 9 warrants served for probation parole violations, 7 park and walk conducted in high crime areas. And lastly, under the police department, the Traffic Law Enforcement Division was awarded a $12,000 grant for aggressive driving, pedestrian, and occupant safety, meaning seatbelt, child restraint street enforcement. Under Public Works, which has been incredibly busy, the department resumed street sweeping efforts on March the 8th. If residents have not already, please check your block's posted schedule to avoid being ticketed by the Reading Parking Authority. The Public Works Garage evaluated and repaired 3 of the best 4 fire chief cars that were removed from service and replaced by newer vehicles. So now the fire department has 3 spare cars instead of 1. And Public Works continues pothole remediations efforts with 2 crews working to address the list of reported issues, and also currently working on an energy audit on 5 city buildings. 1 is complete and 4 are at the preliminary report stage. And I also want to point out that this happens to be Public Works Week, National Public Works Week. And the mayor has asked me to read a proclamation, which the council president has kindly agreed to. And I'd like to read that for National Public Works. It starts with, whereas the City of Reading Public Works Department services provided in our community are an integral part of our residents' everyday lives. And whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public work systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets, highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of our communities greatly depends on those rendered by the Public Works Department. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, are vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works staff. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the residents' attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Eddie Moran, Mayor of the City of Reading, do hereby proclaim the week of May 16th to the 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week on behalf of the City of Reading, Berks County, Pennsylvania. So kudos to them for all the fine efforts, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
All right, thank you, Abe. Any comments or questions this evening for the managing director? Go ahead, Lucy.
Hi, good evening, Abe. Thank you very much. Always a very robust report, which is appreciated, as well as you and Frank attending and making sure that we are briefed on the happenings of the administration. Regarding the availability of the vaccine to employees of the city, has the city determined yet a policy, employee policy on the vaccine as a city, and how we would manage that?
Yes, certainly. It is not mandatory if that's what you're asking, but every employee was asked to sign a form that either accepted that they were going to get vaccinated or signed a waiver that said that they were not going to get vaccinated. Now, I will double check with our Human Resources Department as to how many people signed that form. I don't believe it was very many. And I also want to point out that over 50 employees took advantage of the vaccination the last time I checked, which was a few weeks ago. So I'm guessing that that number has increased in the last several weeks, and we still have 2 bites of the apple as well. So I will have a more complete list at the next meeting. I'd be happy to follow up with that information for you.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, any additional comments or questions, Marcia?
Yes, and thank you, Manager Director, for your report, and especially for the advocacy that the city has taken regarding the COVID-19 vaccination. It's been exemplary. Now, because the governor most recently announced some changes in the restrictions and such, I've had folks ask me things like, when might they be able to get a special event permit? What kinds of activities are going to be allowed by the city? Are you ready to answer those questions, or will we be getting those answers upcoming in the near future?
I am so glad that you asked that, Counselor, because there is a news conference tomorrow at noon where your answers will be forthcoming by the mayor.
Okay, great. And I'm looking forward to some exciting events. Unfortunately, due to work responsibilities, I won't be able to attend, but I'll be reading it and being very much interested in what will be coming. And any way that we can help as counselors and to be able to educate the public regarding how these things change and how they impact day-to-day activities. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, any additional comments or questions for the managing director? All right, if not, Abe, thank you so much for your report. We are going to move on here to the report from our city auditor, and we're going to welcome Maria Rodriguez for her comments, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. The first item on my report is the 2020 franchise cable fee for the first quarter. For the fiscal year 2021, the city budgeted $825,000 in revenue for the cable franchise fees. Due to the fact that less revenue was collected in previous years, the administration, with the recommendation of the city auditor office, opted to budget $50,000 less in 2020 compared to 2020 budget. For the first quarter of the current year, the city collected $205,330.02 in revenue for this line item. If this line item continues the same trend of the first quarter of the remaining of this year, the city might meet the budget expectation for 2021. Furthermore, the chart below demonstrates that less revenue was collected during the first quarter of this year compared to the first quarter of the previous year, of the previous 4 years. The second item is the user fees revenue or data of 3/31/2021. User fee is the revenue collected for the EMS services that the city provides to the community. For the current fiscal year, the city budgeted $3,909,500, and for the first quarter of this year, the city collected $876,287.19. If this revenue continue this trend for the next 3 quarters of this year, there is a probability that the city could exceed the budget target for this revenue line item 2021. The unemployment compensation, I did an analysis for 2021 because according to the CARES Act that was passed by the government due to the pandemic to COVID-19, the city or any entity that is eligible will receive 50% reimbursed of the unemployment compensation. For the fiscal year 2020, the city had a total expenses of $129,409.52 for unemployment compensation. Due to the pandemic, the city received a credit of $36,783.91 from the federal government COVID disaster UC relief. The majority of this credit was applied to the third quarter and fourth quarter of the city unemployment compensation account. As a result, the total unemployment compensation expense for this year was $92,768.47, and the city UC account ended with a credit balance of $142.86, which will be applied and reflected on the city next statement or account in 2021. By saying this, sometimes they apply the credit to the account, but they don't apply that credit until the unemployment compensation receive the money from the Treasury Department. So there is a lack of time when the city receive that credit. For the fiscal year 2020, the city allocated $71,600 to cover the expense of unemployment compensation. Although a credit was applied to the city unemployment compensation account, the year ended with a negative variance of $21,168.47. This is my report for tonight, and I open for any question that you might have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Maria. Any comments or questions for the auditor this evening? Just so you know, Maria, and Chief Stout, it looks like we're trending well here for the first quarter for the EMS. I don't know how much of 2020 shortfall was attributed to COVID, but hopefully we will continue to see the revenue that we're seeing at least through the first quarter.
Yes.
Still would like to understand sometime how we got that gap in 2020. Again, it may just be COVID, but we don't have to answer that tonight, but it's.
Yeah, the first quarter of this year looks very strong. I mean, the revenue received is very strong for the first quarter of this year. But last year, due to the pandemic, we had a negative variance of $790,000. I did talk to the chief last year, and that, less service was provided. I believe, people were using the ambulance less, and not too many people was going to the emergency room due to the pandemic. People was afraid that because going to the emergency room, that was basically what the company say, that less service was provided going to the emergency room. People were afraid to call the ambulance to go to the emergency room. So, and probably that was the case, because just by looking at the data in New York City, that's basically what happened. I mean, everybody was afraid going to the hospital after a lot of people was getting sick due to the COVID, due to the pandemic.
I can relate. I was there for 9 hours. They told me to be quiet and sit in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know. So, all right, thank you, Maria. We're going to move on now this evening to our next item, and we have a report this evening from the Environmental Advisory Council. We have Mr. Scott Case and Mr. David Beam. Welcome to both of you, gentlemen, and the floor is yours.
Hey, wonderful. Thank you very much. So my name is Scott Case. I'm the chair of the Environmental Advisory Council, and I'm absolutely thrilled that David Bean, the vice chair and former chair of the EAC, is actually here to make sure I don't say anything silly. So thank you, David. So we owe you an annual written report, which I will confess is not quite finished. I will make sure we get a draft, a final copy out to you here shortly after the meeting. So kind of as a quick overview and a quick reminder or refresher of the EAC, we play a couple of key roles, mainly coordinating various environmental initiatives underway at the city, responding to city and administration questions and requests around environmental issues, sustainability issues. And one of the things that we probably are most active in is actually community environmental awareness kinds of programs. So under environmental awareness, some of the things that we've been doing, a pretty darn good job, thanks to people like David Bean. We do have a regular BCTV program hosted by David Bean. We're also working on a signage program to actually identify some of the sustainability aspects that exist here in the city. So some of the green infrastructure projects that the city has implemented that community might not actually recognize as part of our sustainability initiative, part of the environmental effort that the city is doing to make the city safe, clean, and green. So we do have a signage program where we'll be unveiling. We've got some draft signs and some preliminary locations. So that's been a key piece of what we've been doing the last year. And on top of that, we've done quite a bit of work supporting some of the single hauler waste programs, reviews of some development projects on steep slopes to make sure that we're working with developers and the city codes folks to make sure that we are protecting our local environment while also making it possible for our city to grow and expand. One of the other kind of key areas recently throughout the COVID year was in fact working closely with the city on a climate resiliency plan. So the city council has passed a number of resolutions, for example, promoting a transition to 100% renewable energy, supporting the Paris Climate Accords. What EAC has done is facilitate a number of community meetings and help develop some of the early climate resiliency planning work that the city was doing. A lot of that work has kind of been put on pause. COVID kind of got in the way and sucked up a lot of appropriate time and attention from people, but that is something we intend to return our attention to, which is why we were particularly thrilled with two things that have happened recently. One, as we heard from Abe, the energy audits are a big piece of any sort of climate resiliency program. Obviously, understanding how the city spends its money on energy, electricity is very important. Finding opportunities to reduce the energy use is key, helps us save money and makes us take some steps closer towards addressing the climate issues. The other big happening is the hiring of a new sustainability manager, Nicole Judge. So we are particularly happy about that piece. We're looking forward to working with her through the EAC. But it's not just Nicole that we're looking forward to continuing to work with. People like Stan Rugis, Shelley Smith, Bethany Ayers Fisher, Bill Murray from Wawa. All of these folks take the time to come to our monthly EAC meetings. So we actually have a fairly effective communication channel, a place to talk about sustainability issues, learn about sustainability issues, and kind of increase communication between the citizens, the administration, and city council. So the one kind of key piece that I would throw out there is a potential red flag. The EAC can have up to 7 members on EAC. At this point, we are down to 5. So we have a wonderful team. The previous group did a great job of really professionalizing the EAC. We've got a very, very talented group of people with all sorts of fancy credentials and expertise, but we are only 5 people. There are 2 openings on EAC, and we are looking for any sort of assistance to fill those additional seats. So obviously we're looking to make sure that the EAC reflects the full diversity of our city, but we're also looking for people that have additional insights and expertise that they can bring to the table. So before I officially close my comments, David, have I missed anything key?
You have not, Scott. Great job. I delivered 3 or 4 of these presentations back in, I think, 2012 to 2015 or so. So great job covering everything. I did want to reinforce our concern about the number of board members we currently have. Obviously many of us work. We do have 2 members who are retired, but 3 of us on the board, we work outside of the time we volunteer to the city. And the EAC has a lot on its plate, and it is really stressing the ability of the 5 members we currently have, even with a very good subcommittee structure that we have in place. It is really stressing our ability to truly serve the environmental needs of the city. So if any of the council members know of anyone within their particular constituencies who might be a good fit for the EAC, please encourage them to get an application in, because we really want to get moving to get ourselves fully staffed.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Scott and David. We'll open it up for comments and questions right away from council members. Anybody? We'll start with Johanny.
Hi, gentlemen, and thank you for your presentation. Regarding your board, is 7 a good number, or are you exploring? I mean, I know you probably have difficulty even keeping 5, but is there an ideal number for your board?
Scott, if I can address that, you actually raised a very good question, Johanny, because we discussed this at our meeting last week. So by charter, we're allowed 7 members. Our concern is that 7 perhaps is handicapping our ability to truly be reflective of the diverse community that we are. And the question that was posed at the last meeting was, can we change that number and increase it? Given everything that's on our plate, 7, even if it does reflect us as a diverse community, is probably not enough. I think that number needs to be more. It would give us more ability to, truly discharge everything we've got to do under our charter. So we're looking into that issue to see if if the city does have the ability to amend its ordinance to increase that number.
So should we anticipate hearing back from you with a request of what you'd like that number to be?
Yes, we are exploring that. Shelley's looking into the ordinance. We're looking into the statute that created the ordinance from Harrisburg to see if we do have the ability to modify our own ordinance. So yes, we will get back to city council with an answer to that question.
And then I have a part 2 question. Given COVID, I'd be interested to learn what impact it actually had on energy savings and on the climate, being that we were quarantined for so many months. I was just always curious to see if there was any data that spoke of that, if there were any changes as a result of COVID and people now working from home.
That's an excellent question, Johanny. I have seen national level data, but I have not seen anything specific locally. But that's certainly something we can touch base with Public Works, because they do manage the electric bills and things of that nature. But without knowing exactly what's going on locally, it's impossible to ask. Nationally, it doesn't necessarily produce an awful lot of savings. So you end up spending your electricity at home rather than the office, and the offices are still maintained. So if anything, there's some suggestion that it's actually gone up, with the exception of fuel used to commute. But we can certainly look into it. It's a fun question.
Okay, additional comments or questions? Council members, Marcia?
I just want to thank all the dedicated members of the Environmental Advisory Board. You certainly have exceeded what our expectations were when this was originally set up. And even though there's definitely room and probably to have a larger board, it's been extraordinary how you've been able to dovetail on what the city needs are. My question is, one of the environmental issues that we have challenging us is the improper disposal of trash and such. And I know the mayor's very much an advocate for the Clean Cities Initiative. Is there anything we need to be able to do more productively at the city level to be able to address that issue? Because it certainly pollutes our environment considerably.
So it's an excellent question, Marcia. I know that has been a routine, regular conversation at EAC meetings. You've been at many of those meetings to know that issue has been raised. I think now that the new contracts are in place and we're emerging from COVID, there's additional resources to kind of devote towards those kinds of issues. So unless David knows otherwise, I think at this point, we're mostly just kind of monitoring the situation. But if it's a specific interest of City Council, we can certainly look into additional opportunities to try and support what the city's doing.
All right, additional comments or questions, anyone? Go ahead, Lucy.
Hi, gentlemen, and thank you so much for your report this evening. I wish most of our boards, authorities, and commissions could come in and report more often because it is exceptional work that all of you do, especially as I've become to know more of what you are doing as the EAC. I think that's really a critical area in which I've been trying to promote, and I hope you are also promoting through the revival of the BCTV programming, presentations like this, so that people can understand what the Environmental Advisory Council is. Maybe take away any intimidation from, things like sustainability, and to encourage people. I think we see on a national level now more of a looking forward and working towards sustainability in our everyday lives and everything that we do as a community, in our environment, and economically. So I thank you for doing that. I think that the more we can continue to share what you do and how you do it, hopefully there will be, at least for right now, 2 additional willing members to come in and join your exceptional team. And please continue to advise us as to how we can better support you in the work that you are doing as volunteers for the city of Reading. I've seen so many positive outcomes. I do hope additionally that the new sustainability manager will provide resource and attention and encouragement to you as a group as well. And that together maybe that impact can be a little bit greater, because I know there's a lot of things you want to do, and it's really focusing on accomplishing some of the things that have been set aside for right now. And I know that's a challenge because we have a lot of visionaries on the EAC, and I thank you for your report this evening.
Thank you, Lucine. And just to touch base, something that you alluded to and that Johanny explicitly mentioned, while David is correct, we are likely to come back and say, hey, the EAC could be a larger body. Do not wait for our report or our request. There is plenty of room on subcommittees of the current EAC. So if you throw 100 warm bodies at us, there is plenty of work to do. We will put them on committees and subcommittees until such time as that the EAC itself gets bigger. So please send names our way.
Just a quick follow-up question to that comment, Scott. What are your current active subcommittees?
So we have recently kind of consolidated to focus primarily on the green infrastructure subcommittee. We did have a larger number of subcommittees, but given the fact there's only 5 of us, it seemed a little silly to have, the same group of people meet 4 different times, calling ourselves a different committee each time. So right now there's the EAC and then the green infrastructure subcommittee that Kathy Myers has been kind enough to lead.
Okay, additional comments or questions, anyone? If not, Scott and David, thank you very much. I think it was expressed by Marcia that, that your board has taken on so much stuff which is critically important stuff, which we would never give the right attention to. So a lot of people don't understand the amount of volunteer time and effort is put into some of these specific categories. Obviously, our environment is probably one of our most important ones that we have. And we have obviously a beautiful city and a beautiful county. And we believe it's our responsibility to make sure that we not only take care of it now, but preserve it for the future. And I know that's the goal of your body and your board, and we appreciate that. And we'll make an effort to find new members.
You are unmuted.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Council, we're going to move on here to ordinances for final passage. The first ordinance is Bill number 31-2021, amending the City Code Chapter 77, Part 1, Police Department by amending the experience requirements for the position of captain. This was introduced at the April 12th regular meeting, tabled at the April 26th regular meeting, and subsequently divided into 2 ordinances. Is there a motion regarding this ordinance, please?
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments, questions, additional motions? Johanny?
Just for clarity, the motion was put on. However, the ordinance has to be amended to reflect the existence of the college credits that in its current state, it's striked out. So that just has to be that section or language should be reinstated.
All right, that's a motion to amend it to state that. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, been properly moved and seconded. Any comments on that brief amendment? Marcia?
I just want to make sure that the language of the amendment is clear in what it's stated it needs to do. Because what my understanding is, we might need to be able to really state correctly what sections need to be amended. So
Yeah,
I can actually help from legal to make sure that this is correct so that we vote on it. We're amending the correct sections.
So Marcia and council, my understanding is that the amendment would be, would be to remove the strike throughs in the sections that relate to college credits. Is that a correct statement, Councilor Cepeda Freitas, of your motion?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So I believe, I reviewed the ordinance that was attached to the agenda, and I believe that there's only 2 references in the remaining ordinance. They're both in subsection Bs, where the college credits are stricken. So in terms of, if the question is it okay? I think we're fine if everyone understands that that's the amendment that you're requesting. In other words, we would simply be not removing the currently existing points for college credits.
yep, okay, I think that's clear enough.
Good, okay.
All right, any other comments on the amendment? If not, Linda, can we have a roll call on that amendment, please?
Motion was made by Counselor Cepeda Freitas, seconded by Counselor Ventura to amend Bill number 2021 by eliminating references to college credits in the ordinance. Ms. Cepeda Freitas,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Hendershitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marmarow,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Sahelnick,
Yes.
Ms. Ventura,
Yes.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
All right, now the ordinance is standing as amended. Any comments or questions? I'm sorry, any comments on the ordinance that has now been amended for clarification? I know we've had a chance to talk this one through, and as everyone knows, the college credit ordinance has been removed by the administration. So this one is just relevant to the experience requirements. If there are no comments, Linda, can we have a roll call, please?
Motion was made by Counselor Marmarow, seconded by Counselor Ventura to enact Bill number 31, 2021 as amended. Ms. Goodman Hendershitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marmarow,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Sahelnick,
Yes.
Ms. Ventura,
Yes.
Ms. Cepeda Freitas,
Yes.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
Okay, the next ordinance up for consideration this evening is Bill number 35-2021, amending the zoning map by moving 226 North Fifth Street into the same zoning district as 230 North Fifth Street, also known as the Medical Arts Building property, into the same commercial core zoning district. As part of the project, both properties will be combined into a single parcel for commercial uses and residential apartments. This was introduced at the April 26th regular meeting, and there was a public hearing held last Monday night. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any comments? If not, Linda, can we have a roll call, please?
Motion was made by Counselor Marmarow, seconded by Counselor Sahelnick to enact Bill number 35, 2021, which amends the zoning map at the Medical Arts property. Mr. Marmarow,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Sahelnick,
Yes.
Ms. Ventura,
Yes.
Ms. Cepeda Freitas,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Hendershitz,
Yes.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
Our next ordinance is Bill number 36-2021, amending the zoning map by moving 654 through 660 Schuylkill Avenue into the same commercial neighborhood zoning district for a mixed-use development. As part of the project, the properties will be combined into a single parcel for a convenience store / restaurant, a barber shop, dwelling units, and a shared parking area. This was introduced at the April 26th regular meeting. And again, a public hearing was held last Monday night, May 3rd. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any comments? And again, both of these projects are aimed at fostering some development in both of these areas. Just sometimes you have to tweak things to make them fit appropriately. And these ordinances are doing that. So Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
Motion was made by Counselor Reed, seconded by Counselor Cepeda Freitas to enact Bill number 36, 2021, which amends the zoning map in the 600 block of Schuylkill Avenue. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Sahelnick,
Yes.
Ms. Ventura,
Yes.
Ms. Cepeda Freitas,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Hintershitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marmaru,
Yes.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
All right, our next ordinance for final passage this evening is Bill number 37-2021, amending City Code Chapter 353, loitering, obstructing public places by renaming the chapter Loitering and Panhandling, creating a diversionary program to be used to address aggressive panhandling or loitering when it is reported to the Reading Police Department or when police officers encounter it, and eliminate the possibility of a prison sentence. This was introduced at the April 26th regular meeting. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any comments? Donna?
Yes, just briefly, I want to thank everyone who's worked on this ordinance, worked on updating this ordinance, I should say. All the different folks from law enforcement, from social services, people on council, members of the public who commented. Again, this is meant to be a helping ordinance. It's meant to help folks, both folks in terms of quality of life who are walking on the street, driving on the street, that kind of thing, but also for the folks who are challenged, that maybe through diversionary efforts, their lives can be improved. It is not to harass the homeless. It is not to harass anyone who is possibly panhandling, but it is for those extreme cases where panhandling becomes so aggressive, it negatively impacts the quality of life for property owners, for business owners, for passersby. So I thank everyone for their work.
Additional comments or questions? Joe Honey?
So I also want to thank our speakers, or those that provided comments, both Mr. Ellis and Officer Thomas. I know that when we began our conversations, we did speak of creating potentially a task force to further discuss. However, the work got done, and I want to thank the team who helped put this together and make it happen. I do also want to see if we could make some time to explore some of Mr. Ellis's recommendations, such as the tenant advocate. I mean, he does contribute some good ideas in terms of additional services and, you know, potential permanent solutions to some of our social issues. So and that's it. Thank you.
Okay, additional comments? Marcia and then Lucy.
Yes, and I felt that this ordinance was very evolutionary in that it started from a more traditional, perhaps somewhat punitive nature, because I think people were looking for solutions. And through input from the social service agencies, from the Criminal Justice Advisory Board, from fellow council members and from constituents, we were able to look at something that really has the strong point of being diversion. And the police do diversion, and I was going to ask Chief Trinelli to speak to this as a regular part of their routine. And so diversion isn't anything new, but it's something that's become strengthened throughout the past several years. So it's looking at a way of, again, and not imprisoning people. And indeed, many of the members of the Criminal Justice Advisory Board, including our district attorney, said, no, that's not the route you go. What does need to happen, though, to look at the root causes of a long-term social problem is to be able to work on long-term solutions. And a lot have been contributed by Mr. Ellis. There's other people that have been communicating with me. And I think it's important to be able to say that this ordinance may be a step to be able to mobilize folks. Not all the issues that we're going to deal with are going to be of one particular nature. They all might not be homeless. They all might not have a substance use problem or a mental health problem. Maybe a variety of issues. And so we will be learning through this how we can help be able to connect folks in a better way. And just to be able to do a little bit of my own encounter, working in downtown Reading, I have been approached by people who have been panhandling that have been non-aggressive, that just will ask you for a dime. Okay, but I've also been accosted and actually followed by individuals who really are looking for and they need money for whatever reason. And those individuals, I did ask for police officer support. And I believe the police officers, I saw them handling it in a very respectful way. So one thing I think we need to learn from this experience is our police officers can be strong connections for people with problems. Okay, and unfortunately, most recently in media, they've gotten a lot better rap as far as how they approach individuals. So I think we need to be able to know, and I wanted to ask Chief Trinelli if he could speak to the training our officers receive in this area.
Right, so our training will accomplish a couple of things. One is to, as best we can, define what aggressive panhandling is, not what you describe, the individual who asks you for $1 on the sidewalk, but somebody who's following people down the street, blocking access to a business, disrupting the quality of life for folks downtown. The other part of it is how this ordinance fits in with the other diversionary programs. If we identify an individual who has a substance abuse problem, there are other diversionary programs that we can steer them towards. And our officers have been trained a lot on those programs over the past couple of years, and specifically over the last couple of months as it comes to the Blue Cares Next Step program.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Lucine, you had some comments?
Yes, thank you. I have approached this cautiously. I do want to commend everybody who, again, has been working towards this, because this has not been a quick or easy discussion, which it shouldn't be. And first, I want to make it very clear that this is not an ordinance for Penn Street. This is citywide. We have situations of aggressive panhandling and loitering throughout the entire city of Reading. And I would expect that it would be addressed through the entire city of Reading and not just on Penn Street. I believe that there is some exceptional potential in diversionary programs. Punitive approach, as Donna said, is not the right one. For individuals who clearly would be resorting to aggressive panhandling and loitering, fining them excessive amounts and throwing them in prison certainly is not going to help the situation. In terms of what's been suggested, I would like to see diversionary programs get the attention that it deserves throughout multiple ordinances to be more of a commonplace policy for our police officers and city employees, and also, of course, working with the agencies. Because ultimately, I don't know that anybody is in a position of wanting to have to resort to aggressive panhandling or loitering ultimately to survive. And I would also say that I believe here, I'm concerned because although we have progressed greatly in the structuring of this ordinance and policy, I believe it's still too vague. I don't feel that there is an adequate description for those in our police force to identify and target what aggressive panhandling and loitering is, as opposed to someone who is not displaying those behaviors. I feel like that there should be criteria very plainly outlined so that someone adequately can be trained and say, this person definitely is exhibiting this behavior. Because what I've been told by the chief is that this is far and few between. This is not what typically is going to be used as a tactic by our police officers. And so if that's the case, my concern is that it has not been clearly defined to me in writing specifically what individuals will be trained on to look for that will identify those who are aggressive panhandling and loitering. Thank you.
All right. If there are no additional comments, I have just a few. And I was, you know, for a point of reference to the public, there is some definition to the aggressive. And I think I'm going to just take a second to spell out the definition of aggressive panhandling, of following behind, ahead, or alongside a person for more than 25 feet, either before, during, or after soliciting, if that conduct is intended or is likely to cause a reasonable person to fear bodily harm to oneself or to another, or damage to or loss of property, or otherwise be intimidated into giving money or other things of value. And the second definition is continuing to solicit from a person after that person has been given a negative response to such a request or walked away from the person requesting it. The next item is intentionally touching or causing physical contact with the solicited person without such person's consent. And the fourth one is intentionally blocking or interfering with the safe or free passage of a person or vehicle being solicited by any means, including unreasonably causing a person or vehicle operator to take evasive action to avoid physical contact. The next one is using profane or abusive language or speaking in an unreasonably loud volume, either during the solicitation or following a refusal to make a donation, or making any statement or gestures towards a solicited person which would cause a reasonable person to be fearful or feel compelled, or soliciting from a person while that person is waiting in line for entry to a building or for another purpose where they really don't have a way to get away. So I think, you know, there's always room for improvement in some of that, but I think those definitions are pretty good. I did hear Mr. Ellis's comments, and, you know, I agree. There are other laws for harassment. There are other laws for, you know, other things, violations, but I think this thing's been whittled down appropriately. That gives the police a tool to help some of these people out. Most people looking for help shouldn't be impeded by this. Those that really need help, you're allowed to ask as much as you want, as long as you do it appropriately and you don't harass people. I certainly don't want to put forward a law that says, you know, if I have to ask 50 people for $1 until I get 3, I want to be able to do that. You know, if I need those $3, I don't want to take that right away from anybody, but we don't want people harassing people and doing it in a way that's interfering with people's sense of safety, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of people out there who have real needs, and we're not looking to obstruct that. And as always, the police always have to use discretion. They know what harassment and aggressiveness looks like. But they know what a lot of things look like because they see it all the time. So they have to use that discretion. We're not going to be perfect in this, but the goal is to get some of these people who are aggressively pursuing people to understand that there are laws around that. And here's a way to kind of get you around that. And here's some resources without necessarily penalizing them. The first incident is really, here's a warning, and, you know, we want to get you educated on this so you understand it moving forward. I think it's come to a good place. Everything needs a little bit of adaptation along the way, but I think the message that we need to tell people tonight is that you can't harass people. You're allowed to ask for help, and we never want to take that right away from anybody. And you shouldn't take that right away from the people who want to help. But, you know, the people who are aggressively harassing people are taking away the help from the people who want to help to the people who really need it. So the key is to get this thing balanced and let people, you know, try to help each other. Johanny, you had a comment.
Yeah.
I think it's more towards Lucine second comment as it relates to police receiving adequate and appropriate training to handle these matters. And I don't know if that's something that maybe, I know the chief mentioned spoke regarding the matter in our committee of the whole meeting, but I don't know if he would like to perhaps maybe elaborate of maybe a mention of the trainings that are offered or that are mandated for police to partake in to handle these matters?
So yeah, our officers are trained on every ordinance that gets passed in the city. We get updates every year on the new laws that are out there. One of the, I think the most important things to note is that if an officer encounters an individual on the street who is violating a law or an ordinance, they're required by law to use the most specific section of the criminal law or the city ordinance when they are addressing that specific incident. So again, this would be kind of those rare instances, as the council president read from the ordinance, when anything else doesn't apply, that is more specific to the conduct that we're seeing. And again, some of the other comments we had about the different diversionary programs are out there, the Blue Cares Next Step program, the marijuana diversion programs, and some of the mental health intake programs will all be applicable to these situations. And it's through all of that training that the officers get that they would be able to determine which program or which course of action would be most appropriate. And this is just one of those tools that they would have at their disposal.
Jeff,
Yes, Jack, go ahead, sir.
the only problem I have, everyone spoke up and they all have good ideas. What do we call an individual that is continuously on the street every day? Every day, bothering people, and I'll say bothering for something. Okay? But he's out there every day. What do we do with this individual?
Well, Strat, people have the right to be out there every day if they have the need. They don't have the right to harass people. So again, we want those people, if they have a need to ask for help on a daily basis, they can do it in a friendly and compassionate way without aggressively pursuing people. They have that right. We're not looking to take that right away. Hopefully we
So
can.
you're saying they can do that every day with no help from anyone?
Well, no, the goal would be to identify those people and get them some help, but this ordinance doesn't take that right away. If you kindly ask people for help every day and you don't harass them and chase them down the street or impede them or push them or, you know, continue to speak to them while they're stuck in a line trying to get in somewhere, you have the right to do that. You know, none of us are ever that far from that. We always need to remember that. You know, we all people in those predicaments. This law is to give the police a tool to help with the aggressive people who are not using basic common sense. And, you know, we don't always understand their underlying needs, but they're not being fair in their requests. So yeah, the goal is to get people like that some help, but the other side is they have a right every day to ask for help and do it the right way.
Well, we'll fill up the 500 and 600 block of Penn Street with individuals every day, the same people bothering everybody on the street for help. Is that okay?
Well, you're using the word bothering. Aggressive panhandling is not okay. Bothering is not okay. Asking people for help every day, you may not like it. If they have a need, they have a right to do it, as long as they're not doing it in a way that's bothering people.
Okay.
It may bother you personally that somebody asks every day, but as long as they're not aggressively going after people for help, that's okay. You know, the goal would be to help those people and get them out of that predicament, but to not, you know, we're not looking to take away people's rights here at all. Okay. Any other comments on this specific matter? If not, Linda, can we have a roll call, please? Marcia, do you have a comment?
Yeah, and I just wanted to draw closure to this because it's a good discussion that we're having, and there are obviously a lot of very good points of view. I look at this as a step to be able to see what we can do to address issues, but not to turn our backs on folks that may be struggling for a lot of different reasons. The other thing that I think is really important, and I would hope that the public start to appreciate it, through my years of working with police officers, I have seen them do phenomenal work in connecting people with the help they need. And that it's not done in a way that is punitive at all. It's a way of caring. And so we need to be able to, and I hope people have an opportunity to see police officers working in that way and to use them as trusted public service officers. So this is one way that I think you can build relationships. So some of the people being approached will be able to see that the police officers are there to help and aren't, by a lot of people's public perception, there to hurt. So thank you.
All right, Lucy, go ahead.
Also, along the same lines, to bring closure to the conversation, I would encourage, I know the police department has an outreach coordinator. I think that the dialogue does not end with the vote, and that this should be continually discussed amongst our community members, amongst our police staff, amongst, intersections of where the community and the police meet, and also within the agencies that are there with support services, so that the dialogue is always there and fresh, and guiding and reminding everyone as to what it is specifically and what these diversionary programs are and how they are needed to be implemented and managed.
All right, go ahead, Johanny, and then Donna, and then have a final comment.
Is it possible when we receive reports so we get reports from the police department, from the administration, the mayoral report, is it possible to maybe update us on some of the progress, solutions, or how this tool is being implemented, and any data or report on the effect, I guess, of this ordinance?
Yeah, I can certainly submit that information to the managing director for his inclusion in the report that he provides.
Thank you.
Donna?
Yes, and my question or comment was along that regard, that perhaps maybe by the end of summer, we can reconvene to discuss this. What's working, what's not working, is there anything we need to refine? Where the most concerns have been geographically, so as Lucine pointed out, it's not just Penn Street where this is occurring. We all in our district see it, whether we're in the outskirts of the city or we're in the inner city. So if, say, perhaps, and I looked to our managing director, perhaps by mid-August, late August, we could have some kind of formal update during one of our committee of the whole meetings, and also ask the chief if we need to refine this, or if people from the social service world or elsewise have comments. Everything, all legislation is always something in motion. It's always active. So nothing's written in stone that can't be adjusted. So let's look at the data, let's look at the reports, let's see if we want to go forward in any other way.
Okay, so again, I just want the public to know it is okay to ask for help in the city. It is okay to help people. If they ask in a kind way, it's okay to help them. It is not okay to be aggressively pursuing people. If they tell you no, no means no, and you walk away. There are some spelled out guidelines. If you feel you are being aggressively dealt with on a continuous basis, let the police know, and it will be dealt with appropriately. But the public needs to know it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to help in a good way, not impeding on anyone's rights. All right, so Linda, with that, can we have a roll call, please?
Motion was made by Councilor Reed, seconded by Councilor Goodman Hendershitz, to enact Bill number 37, 2021, which amends Chapter 353 of the City Code by creating a diversionary program for aggressive loitering and panhandling. Ms. Sahelnick?
Yes.
Ms. Ventura?
Yes.
Ms. Cepeda Freitas?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Hendershitz?
Yes.
Mr. Marmaru,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
yes,
Mr. Waltman, President.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
All right, our next item for vote this evening, 1 second, please. Is bill number 38-2021, authorizing appropriations transfer of $40,634.03 from project 31-01-03, general ledger account number 01-00-002990, fund balance to project number 31-01-03, general ledger 3101-004510, general plan supplies, in order to make the Samuel Pottinger Trust donations available for use during the current fiscal year. Introduced at the April 26th regular meeting. Is there a motion, please?
Move to table.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to table. There's no discussion on a table vote. Linda, can we have a roll call, please?
Motion was made by Counselor Goodman Henderson, seconded by Counselor Cepeda Freitas to table bill number 38, 2021. Ms. Ventura,
Yeah.
Ms. Cepeda Freitas,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Henderson,
Yes.
Mr. Marmaru,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
yes,
Ms. Sahelnick,
Yes.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
Our final ordinance for passage this evening is bill number 39-2021, authorizing an amendment to the 2021 budget revenues, reflecting the increase of $1,427,667 in general fund revenue pursuant to the recently negotiated cooperation agreement with the Reading Parking Authority. This was introduced at the April 26th regular meeting. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any comments?
I'm sorry, I didn't see who seconded it.
I think that was Strat.
No, I made the motion.
He made the motion.
Strat
Who
moved.
seconded that? Hello?
I'll second.
Johanny did. How's that?
Thank you. Great.
All right. If there's no comments or questions at this point, Linda, can we have a roll call, please?
Motion was made by Counselor Marmaru, seconded by Counselor Cepeda Freitas to enact bill number 39, 2021, which authorizes an amendment to the budget reflecting the revenues received through the recently negotiated cooperation agreement with the Reading Parking Authority. Ms. Cepeda Freitas,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Henderson,
Yes.
Mr. Marmaru,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
yes,
Ms. Sahelnick,
Yes.
Ms. Ventura,
Yeah.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
Okay, we have 3 ordinances for introduction this evening. I'm going to ask the Councilwoman Marcia Goodman Hintershitz to please read them onto the record.
Hey. A, ordinance amending City Code Section 576-403, parking prohibited in some specific areas by adding the requirement to park inside parking stall lines. B, ordinance amending City Code Section 576-416 by adding a fine of $45 and additional 10 and 30-day penalties, each in the amount of $22.50 for parking outside the parking stall line. C, ordinance authorizing a total transfer of $99,000 from the General Ledger Rental Parking Authority to General Ledger Contracted Services to provide funding for special counsel to the Planning Commission to provide specialized legal advice relating to subdivision and land development projects, review of ordinance amendments, agreements and resolutions, and general legal matters involving planning and zoning.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. We're going to move on to the next order of business, and that's resolutions. We just have two resolutions this evening regarding appointments. I'm assuming there's no objections to doing those together. If not, I will read them out. The first one is a resolution appointing Serenity Plaza to represent Council District Number 5 to the Youth Commission. And the second resolution would be appointing Elta Jackson Henry to the Diversity Board. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any comments?
Yes, Jeff, I believe we're getting two excellent candidates for these positions here. And they're appointments, they're not reappointments. So they're looking to come on and help as much as possible. And I think they're gonna, well, I think they're excellent. And we're getting some good people. Thank you.
Okay, any additional comments? All right, go ahead, Marcia.
Okay, and I agree with Mr. Marmaru. I was very impressed by Serenity and what she was able to provide as far as your involvement with the Youth Commission, and especially with ELTA, as far as something that's so critical, our Diversity Board, and how she might want to be able to help this board regroup and move forward in the way that it needs. So we're very fortunate for the time that both these individuals are ready to dedicate to the city.
Okay, any additional comments? Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, just like we heard tonight from the Environmental Council, I mean, there's so many people doing so many things, a lot of detailed work in the background that's critical to the success of the city. You don't necessarily always hear their names or what they're doing, but there's a lot of people, and we're certainly honored when new people step up to help out. So with that in mind, Linda, can we have a roll call, please?
Motion was made by Councilor Marmaru, seconded by Councilor Cepeda Freitas to adopt resolutions 47 and 48, 2021, which make appointments to the city's boards and commissions. Ms. Goodman Hintershitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marmaru,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Sahelnick,
Yes.
Ms. Ventura,
Yeah.
Ms. Cepeda Freitas,
Yes.
Mr. Waltman, President.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
All right, that brings us up to our final order of business this evening. Council comments. If somebody has something pressing, administration is welcome as well. If they have a comment on anything, I'll open up the floor.
Okay.
Go ahead, Strat.
Again, I want to thank everybody that really chipped in this time concerning the 9th and Marion project. Can you imagine waiting 13 years for something like this to take place? If you people would have went out there 13 years ago and saw the condition of the ladies' room up there and the rest of that building, you'd see where I'm coming from. And I'm sure if my wife was around now, she would be saying the same thing. Also, Jeff, I'd like to know when we're moving back into chambers. I understand now, I heard it won't be to the end of the year.
Jesus, Strat, you had to point me out, huh? It's not my decision. It's, you know, we're going to wait for our disaster recovery leadership through the administration. Obviously, a lot's going to depend on this virus. Obviously, the vaccinations have taken hold fairly well. Looks, at least for the coming weeks, that we may be continuing to improve. There's going to be a cautionary period because of the variant nature of this virus. That, you know, a lot of people are going to be a little reluctant. We're going to follow the guidance of the professionals, and we'll wait for, you know, a clearance from them. I am with you, Strat. I think we would all like to be face to face, not only with each other, but the public.
The public is the public out here is upset. They want to see the public. They want to see the commissioners. They want to talk to us. Okay. And they're not, and I know, Linda, you're saying no, but I disagree with you. The people that I'm talking to, they want to be able to talk to us, and they can't do it this way.
Well, I will tell you, it's not Linda's decision nor mine. or the bodies. We're going to follow the professionals, and as they continue to get more information, it could happen in a month. It could happen at the end of the year. I don't think anyone knows at this point. So I wouldn't listen to speculation, but I wouldn't confine myself to one date or the other. There's a lot of moving parts in this specific case. I think we agree with many of the constituents. We'd like to be face to face with them, but our goal is to protect each other and protect the public. You know?
Okay.
I had the virus in December. We're in what, May? I'm still recovering from it. And I was fortunate to recover, right? So, you know, you have to, I know a lot of people are anxious, but it's not time to tell people to hide in their closets, but still be cautious. There's still a ways to go here. Any additional comments? Go ahead, Johnny.
So I do realize though that I guess we need to find other ways or additional ways to engage, enable, and encourage conversation and dialogue with our community. Like right now, I'm looking at the screen and I see there's questions in Q&A. So I'm not sure how that gets handled. I think there's some questions there, like who's responsible for answering them? How do we get them answered while we are engaged in the meeting? So I'd like for us to kind of like figure out how do we better engage our constituency, being that, you know, obviously we're not meeting in person, but virtually. So
yeah, I just want to make light to that. You know, in the forum that we're in Zoom, it does have this question and answer component. We do not take questions live during our meetings and respond to them, or we would be all over the map. If individuals want to submit their contact information through that and give council members an opportunity for those that want to respond via email or over the phone, but we certainly can't get into the process of you know, trying to answer questions mid-meeting. We'll be diverted all over the map. So I understand people may be confused because that tool is there. I'd be asking questions too, right? But you know, I think the best we can tell the best we can tell the public is that we normally don't take questions and answers during the meeting unless you're a participant in the meeting. And that's kind of why we have it there for the actual participants who are invited to the meeting as official meeting attendees. Everyone's a participant from the standpoint of getting to view the meeting and listen in. So, all right, go ahead, Johnny.
oh, yeah, I have two more. I'm sorry. And then also just utilizing this venue because we do have Facebook attendees, people that are watching. So this is a great way to also promote and encourage folks to start applying to participate in commissions, authorities, and boards. We have a lot of vacancies. Yes, we're making progress in filling in positions, but we would like to get more people involved. And third, an announcement. The Greater Reading Chamber Alliance has their second round of applications for the COVID-19 Hospitality Industry Recovery Program. So the deadline for the second round is May 15th by 5 p.m. So this is an announcement to any business in that industry that may be in need. You have an opportunity to apply for a grant. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Johnny. There's a lot of businesses still have not fully recovered, that's for sure. Additional comments and questions? Oh, Marcia, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, and I would like to thank the mayor, Mayor Moran, and his strong team of individuals who launched their playground cleanup program at the beginning of May at the Neversink Playground. It was an extraordinary show of togetherness as far as the number of people that came out and volunteered to help the work of all the city departments. Also, it was an opportunity for dialogue. There were individuals from Public Works, the police department, again, some volunteers from a church group. And what I think the community learned from that is all these folks are here to help you. Whereas the perception sometimes when you see a police car is something I need to be afraid of. The young people in the neighborhood were able to see that the police officers were able to talk to them. We did have one situation that they did very tactfully handled regarding a dirt bike, which I know we're all concerned about, but the way it was handled was very respectful. So I appreciate that kind of work, and I hope it can continue to occur throughout the city. And it certainly motivated that particular neighborhood and those families to know that the city cares about what happens to their playgrounds. As a result of this, and this is a question I'll ask for the rec commission, they wanted to know when the nets are going back up on the basketball courts. The hoops are there, but the nets aren't. So the young people are up there using the facility, so we need to make that happen. Thank you.
Okay, Donna, and then Lucy.
And I'll just advocate for that as well. I've been in touch with the school district regarding nets at the little playground behind Garnside School here. I was told they were going to be going back up. I haven't seen them yet, so I will follow up on that. But I think the time has come. Outside, our kids need this. Our kids have suffered beyond what they should have suffered with this whole thing. Between the social alienation, having to isolate, and their normal lives taken away. It's summer. They can be outside. Let them play basketball, from the little ones to the big ones, as well as everything. So I would certainly advocate for that, and I will be back in touch with the school district regarding the nets, at least in our area, in District 5.
Yeah, now that we're state champs, we want to be out there talking trash and doing all that. You know what I mean?
That's really the irony of it when you think about it.
That's
that
part of the game.
Our kids are state champs, and our youth can't play basketball in a city that the high school kids were the state champs. What a mixed message. What a mixed message.
Well, it's not. I mean, it was done for safety, and I think I agree it's time.
It's time. It's time. It was time a few weeks ago for this.
Okay, Lucy.
Hi, thanks. So a couple of things about being outside. I want to make an announcement that the Goggle Works is looking for a garden manager. And it's a bilingual position that they're looking to hire to work in conjunction of Lowers Park. If you're familiar with that elementary school, they have a phenomenal learning garden and grounds, right? Outdoor classrooms and things. So I know people are looking for employment opportunities. Employers are looking for wonderful people. This is a great opportunity for somebody who is bilingual and bicultural, who lives in the city of Reading. So if you are interested, you can find out that information at goggleworks.org / I think it's bilingual garden manager. In addition to that, Mary's Shelter, which is in District 1, is hosting a virtual 5K walk, run, stroll. And so I encourage people to check that out. Mary's Shelter is a very important organization that serves a specific population in our community. And this is, people are starting to get outside. You can walk. I often, if you want to train for this with me, I'm running at least twice a week through the Reading Public Museum grounds of the Arboretum. Just a loop there and a little bit more is what you need to do. And it's so beautiful there, and good to be outside as the weather changes. So look for me out there. I'll look for you, and consider supporting an organization like Mary's Shelter in everything that they do. Finally, we had a second meeting of the Youth Commission. I'm continually impressed by these young adults in our city representing our future. We had an incredible dialogue on concerns of how are we incentivizing and supporting startup businesses, mom and pop businesses. What incentives do we offer, encouragements as a city? They had a great civics 101 lesson on a local level. And again, they're asking the right questions. And I see a bright future for these individuals involved, but also for our city. So I know we have another individual coming on to join. Soon they will be self-electing officers. They're learning Robert's Rules of Orders and incredible skill sets, and their future is bright. So is ours. Thank you.
Okay, additional comments? All right, so if there are no additional comments, I think that concludes our business for this evening. Real quickly, let me just look at the council schedule. We have next Monday at 4 o'clock, we have our nominations and appointments committee. At 5 o'clock, we will have our next committee of the whole meeting. On the 24th of May, we'll have a committee of the whole meeting at 5 o'clock, and that will be immediately followed by our next regular business meeting on May 24th. If there are no other comments, I simply need a motion to adjourn. Somebody?
So moved.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. We're adjourned. Everyone have a great and safe evening. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.